Pierre. Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour tout le monde. L'été, c'est presque terminé. Malheureusement, c'est la grande tragédie chaque année au Canada, la fin de l'été. Les enfants sont au retour. C'est le temps de considérer l'été de Mark Carney et les libéraux, après 10 ans au pouvoir. Et c'était un grand show de boucan avec Mark Carney. Il a fait un grand spectacle de beaucoup de réunions, beaucoup d'annonces, beaucoup de photo-op, beaucoup de promesses qu'il répète depuis 5 mois au pouvoir. Une show de boucan sur l'austérité. En même temps que M. Carney augmente le coût du gouvernement fédéral de 8 % avec un déficit presque le double de celui que Justin Trudeau a laissé en place, une show de boucan sur les économies dans la bureaucratie en même temps que M. Carney a augmenté de 33 % le nombre de fonctionnaires qui gagnent plus de 100 000 37 % augmentation dans les dépenses sur les consultants, plus d'argent pour le BS coopératif et pour l'aide à l'étranger. Donc, l'austérité pour M. Carney, c'est une show de boucan. Ce n'est pas une réalité. Il a fait une grande show de boucan qu'il a renversé les politiques sur la criminalité qui ont causé le chaos dans nos rues. Mais qu'est-ce qu'il a fait? Toutes les lois des libéraux qui permettent des criminels d'être libérés instantanément restent en place. Le crime est hors de contrôle dans nos communautés et nous entendons chaque jour des tragédies où un criminel récidiviste est libéré dans nos rues pour attaquer encore. Une show de boucan sur l'immigration, sur la crise de l'immigration qu'a causé les libéraux avec des frontières ouvertes et la migration massive. Mais en même temps, M. Carney laisse permettre à un nombre record de travailleurs temporaires de l'étranger venir ici au Canada, enlever les jobs des Canadiens, avec un taux de chômage le plus élevé pour les jeunes depuis 15 ans, un taux de participation dans le marché de travail le plus bas depuis 30 ans pour nos jeunes, avec 400 000 personnes qui sont en chômage d'une longue durée, un nombre record dans notre histoire. M. Carney est heureux d'inviter un nombre record de travailleurs de l'étranger pour enlever leurs emplois. Hier, il a insulté nos jeunes qui sont à la recherche d'un emploi en disant qu'il va continuer de permettre aux grandes entreprises d'inviter des travailleurs de l'étranger parce que les lobbyistes des grandes corporations ont dit qu'ils veulent cette politique-là. Bien sûr, ils veulent ça parce que ça donne plus de profit de payer moins de salaire aux travailleurs de l'étranger au lieu de payer notre propre monde un bon salaire. M. Carney fait un grand show de boucan sur la construction. Vous vous souvenez qu'il avait dit, souvenez-vous qu'il a dit dans les élections qu'on avait une crise existentielle et il fallait bâtir avec une vitesse jamais imaginée dans l'histoire de notre pays. 5 mois plus tard, il a bâti quoi? Qu'est-ce qu'il a bâti en 5 mois? Oh, il a annoncé un bureau qui va éventuellement engager des fonctionnaires qui vont un jour décider si un jour on va donner un permis pour qu'un jour il peut y avoir des projets de construction. Peut-être, mais peut-être pas. 0 permis pour un nouveau projet d'hydroélectricité, de pipeline de mine, de port d'expansion portuelle en 5 mois, après qu'il, lui, a dit qu'il allait bâtir d'une vitesse sans précédent. Une chaude boucan sur la question des États-Unis. Il a dit qu'il allait avoir des coudes levé, mais ses coudes sont disparus. Le grand spectacle de ses coudes est où? Il est où les coudes de M. Carney? Il a fait une concession après l'autre et en plus, on a perdu pendant les 5 mois de Mark Carney 62 milliards de dollars d'investissement qui a quitté notre pays, plus net, la plupart aux États-Unis. Peut-être c'est pour ça que M. Trump voulait tellement voir M. Carney comme premier ministre. Ses politiques d'augmenter les taxes, les impôts, la paperasse, la dette, a expulsé un autre 60 milliards de dollars qui favorise les emplois aux États-Unis. Donc, après le grand show de boucan qu'il allait confronter le président et gagner les négociations, il n'y a pas de deal, comme promis. Il n'y a pas de contre-tarif que M. Carney a promis. Il n'a pas géré Donald Trump comme il a promis. Plus que M. Carney est faible ailleurs, les Canadiens paient le prix ici, chez nous. Mais nous sommes ici pour travailler pour les Canadiens. Les conservateurs vont retourner au Parlement, non pas seulement avec des critiques, mais avec des solutions aussi. Nos priorités, c'est d'augmenter le pouvoir d'achat en éliminant le gaspillage, réduisant les taxes et les impôts pour les Canadiens, de sécuriser nos rues en mettant les criminels en prison, d'avoir des frontières solides avec une réduction en appliquant les freins sur le système d'immigration libérale et finalement un pays plus autosuffisant en adaptant une loi sur la souveraineté canadienne qui va ouvrir notre pays aux entreprises d'investir ici avec des permis de construction les plus rapides dans le monde pour des mines, des pipelines, des ports, des usines de gaz naturel, des projets d'hydroélectricité et en éliminant les taxes sur les gains en capital réinvestis ici au Canada. C'est ça notre vision et nous sommes prêts à travailler avec n'importe qui afin d'accomplir ce beau rêve et pour accomplir des choses de vraies, pour faire des vraies choses au Canada, c'est-à-dire des chèques de paie plus grands, des criminels en prison, des freins sur le système de l'immigration, des projets qui ont commencé et la promesse du Canada restaurée. Ça, c'est notre but pour la session parlementaire et nous sommes prêts à travailler pour vrai, pour l'accomplir. C'est ça l'approche conservatrice. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, everyone. And it's that annual tragedy of the end of the Canadian summer. Dropped the kids off at school for the first day the other day, and as exciting as that was, the summer's coming to an end. And what kind of summer has it been for Mark Carney? It has been the Seinfeld summer, a big show about nothing. Let's review the show. He made a big show about austerity in government spending after he advised Justin Trudeau to double the national debt and cause the worst inflation in 40 years. Now Mr. Carney says he's going to have a big show about austerity. Well, what's the reality? Well, government spending is up 8% in the 5 months Mark Carney has been in office. 33% more bureaucrats make $100,000 or more. 37% more spending on consultants, an eye-watering $26 billion paying for high-price consultants, almost a third more than Trudeau was spending. And though Mr. Carney has not figured out how to introduce a budget, he's managed to double the deficit. That's right. The deficit is going to be twice as big under Mark Carney as it was under Justin Trudeau. So despite the big show, he's not only done nothing, he's made it worse. On crime, he made a big show about how he was going to address the liberal crime crisis. Well, what has he done? He has not changed a single liberal law. He has done nothing. It has been a show about nothing in Mr. Carney's government, but unfortunately it has been a horror show in our communities. Stories of little children being viciously and appallingly assaulted in their own homes by burglars who are out on release. Another horrific tragedy today that we just learned about where innocent First Nations are the victims. And horrendous case of a father losing his life coming to the defense of his children who witnessed his death. These are the stories that Mark Carney's Liberals have made more common through their catch-and-release criminal justice system. Even Liberal mayors are turning on the Carney government and saying, what the hell is taking you so long? Our streets are being overtaken by gangsters and criminals. And Mark Carney has put on a big show about nothing. He has done absolutely nothing. His minister even attacked me for saying that people should be allowed to defend themselves in their homes. He said that it isn't the Wild West. I'm sorry, but unfortunately, after 10 years of Liberal laws, it is the Wild West out there. People are feeling afraid, seniors afraid to go outside, parents afraid to let their children play alone, Canadians afraid their car might be stolen. Drugs are killing a record number of our people, and Mark Carney has put on a big show about nothing. Immigration. Mr. Carney put on a big show that he was going to address Liberal immigration. What has he done? He's kept Justin Trudeau's numbers. He is bringing in a record number of temporary foreign workers to take the jobs of Canadians. And yesterday, he made an appalling comment. He was asked about my proposal to get rid of the temporary foreign worker program, and what did he say? He said, oh, he's talked to business lobbyists, corporate lobbyists, and they assure him they would like to continue to bring in low-wage labor from poor countries. Of course they would, Mr. Carney. Of course they want your corporate lobbyist friends and your other elites want to stuff their pockets by shutting hardworking Canadians out of jobs and giving those jobs to temporary foreign workers. You are not supposed to be working for corporate lobbyists. You are supposed to be working for Canadian workers. And that is why we will be pushing extra hard this fall, to put an end to the temporary foreign worker program so we have Canadian jobs for Canadian workers. And we want those Canadian workers to be able to drive to work in the car of their choice. So we will fight to put an end to Mark Carney's proposed ban on gas, trucks, and cars. And then there's been the Seinfeld show, the big show he's done on trade, tariffs, and Trump. He said elbows up. His elbows have gone missing. He said he'd have a deal by July 21st, whereas September, there's still no deal. He said he'd handle Trump, that he would drop the gloves. And yet, Mr. Trump has been getting everything he wants from this Prime Minister. It's now clear why Donald Trump wanted Mark Carney. Mark Carney backs down and gives him everything he wants. Mark Carney is losing abroad, and Canadians are paying the price at home. But worse than the tariffs is Mark Carney's own penalties on Canadian industry. Since he took office 5 months ago, Canada has lost a net $63 billion, most of it leaving to the United States, to create American jobs at our expense. And this brings me to the next show, the Seinfeld show, about projects. Remember, he was going to build a record, we were going to build at record speeds, at speeds we couldn't even imagine. 5 months have gone by, and what has gotten built? Not one shovel in the ground on a national project. Not one permit granted. In fact, 5 months in, Mark Carney can't even name a project that he'd one day like to consider building. But he's got lots of news coverage about setting up an office. He set up an office that will one day hire people, bureaucrats, who will one day receive applications for projects they might one day consider approving to one day begin construction. Maybe. And then on housing. By the way, that's all happening while Canadian pipeline companies are building pipelines in America, creating jobs and energy opportunities for American workers that they say, these companies, they cannot build here in Canada. And on housing, Mr. Carney said he was going to build these prefabricated modular homes using a brand new government department. 5 months in, how many homes has this government department built? You guessed it, nothing. Because the department, this new bureau, still doesn't even exist. He can't even set up a new bureaucracy in 5 months, let alone build a new house. So our young people are without homes, our construction workers without jobs, and our country in the worst housing crisis ever. That is the consequence of Mark Carney's Seinfeld summer, a big show about nothing. Conservatives want enough of the show business, and let's get down to real business. Our fall session is going to focus on very clear, simple priorities. Stronger take-home pay by cutting government spending, taxes, and inflation. Secure streets by locking up the criminals that Liberals have let go free. Solid borders by slamming the brakes on Liberal immigration. And a self-reliant country by passing the Canadian Sovereignty Act, a bill we encourage the government to take from us and put in place. It is a bill that will make this the fastest place on earth to get a permit for a mine, a pipeline, an LNG plant, a nuclear facility, a port expansion. It will open our country for business. It will axe the capital gains tax when you reinvest money in Canada. Let's bring those hundreds of billions of dollars of investment Liberals expelled back to Canada and unlock an incredible boom that will make us strong, self-reliant, and secure in a country where people can pursue their dreams and get things done. The goals are very simple. We don't need a fancy show. We need to bring costs down. We need to slam the brakes on immigration, lock up criminals, get shovels in the ground, and paychecks in pockets. Those are our clear priorities, and that's something. Thank you.
We'll now proceed to questions. Please state your name and outlet.
David Lau with CBC News. Mr. Poilievre, how do you think the government should balance austerity and investment?
Well, thank you for your question. I don't accept the premise that government spending is going to be an investment. What Mark Carney has proven is that all of his extra spending has gone to operating costs like bureaucracy. He's boosted the size of the bureaucracy by 6%. The consultants by 37%. He's putting more money into foreign aid that ships our money out of Canada. He's giving more money to corporate welfare. He's wasting money on handouts to phony refugee claims. That's not an investment. That's money down the drain. We need to cut bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, corporate welfare, handouts to phony and fraudulent refugees. We need to bring in a dollar-for-dollar law that requires the government find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending they bring in. That's how single mothers, small businesses, and seniors balance their budgets. So far, we've got from Mark Carney is radically higher spending. He's not only increasing spending over Trudeau's numbers, he's increasing it at an increasing rate. Remember, Justin Trudeau had pledged a deficit of about $42 billion for this fiscal year. Mark Carney, without even introducing a budget, might be as much as 100% above that. So nobody should be talking about Mark Carney's austerity. Everyone should be talking about his hypocrisy. He's doing exactly the opposite of what he said he would do. Yes.
Thank you. Second question.
Yes, Mr. Poilievre, David Menzies with Rebel News.
Yes, David.
Mr. Poilievre, literally as we are speaking right now, just a little bit north of this hotel in Vaughan, a funeral is taking place for Abdul Aleem Faruqi. As you know, this is the 46-year-old father who paid the ultimate price in defending his family against home invaders. And yet yesterday, York Regional Police Chief Jim McSween, he held a news conference and he said a couple of things. One is that he wants citizens to comply during a home invasion and wait for police to arrive. He also said, quote, not to take matters into their own hands, end quote. It almost seems as though Chief McSween wants law-abiding citizens to be compliant victims. And of course, last week, in response to your comments about strengthening self-defense laws, the Justice Minister, Sean Fraser, stated on X, quote, this isn't the Wild West, it's Canada. Canadians deserve real solutions that make us safe, not slogans that inspire fear and chaos for Pierre's political survival, end quote. My question, Mr. Poilievre, is what is your response to the comments made by Chief McSween and Justice Minister Fraser?
Well, let's start with Sean Fraser's comments. He says it's not the Wild West out there. Oh, really? Maybe he should talk to Mr. Faruqi's family, this courageous and heroic man who came to the defense of his children, children who will be traumatized for the rest of their life by watching their father mercilessly killed by a criminal who should be in the slammer. And I hope that those children will, as much as their lives are going to be much more difficult, I hope that as they get older, they understand the true hero that their father was. I'm sure he didn't want to be defending his family. He wanted to be sleeping in bed like the rest of us, but he did it because of the instinct of a father to stand and fight and defend his home and his family from an invader. He shouldn't have had to, but liberal laws turned criminals free on our streets again and again and again. The Liberals have known this for years. Police officers, mayors, community groups have been crying out for an end to the Liberal catch-and-release criminal justice system. And yet Mark Carney, who's been Prime Minister for 5 months now, decided to go on vacation before ever reversing those laws, and made an even bigger mistake in appointing Sean Fraser as his Justice Minister, a man who first ruined the immigration system as the Immigration Minister under Trudeau, and then ruined the housing market as a housing minister. And to give him a third chance to screw something up, Carney has put Sean Fraser in charge of this. It's no wonder crime is raging out of control. My message is that we want to end the Wild West, lock up the criminals and throw away the key. 3 strikes, you're out. You 3 violent offenses, you go to jail and you never get out. And I'll add this. People have a right to defend their home. Your home is your castle. Someone comes into your house and threatens your family, you should have the right to take force against them to defend your family. That's what Conservatives propose with the Stand on Guard Act, and that is what we will fight for in this fall session.
Thank you. Third question.
Mr. Poilievre, Chris Gargis, I'm a freelance cameraman with CTV National News. They sent me a couple of questions. I think you've answered the first one, actually, but if you'd bear with me and just let me read
Please.
it anyway. Prime Minister Carney is promising a budget of investments and austerity. Would you like to see him go further than the target they have set of 15% of savings over 3 years?
So he's not doing either, he's doing neither investment nor austerity. What he's doing is even more bureaucracy and spending. As I said, it's all a show. There's talks of targets of one day he might find savings somewhere, but since he took office, let's judge him by his actions. He brought in a spending bill in the spring that ballooned the government by 8%, that expanded the bureaucracy by 6%, that expanded spending on consultants by 37%, that boosted foreign aid, handouts to corporations, and more giveaways to phony refugee claims. Mark Carney is even more expensive than Justin Trudeau, something we would have thought unimaginable. So forget what Mark Carney says, forget what letters he sends to other politicians, forget what comments he makes in press conferences, focus on what he's actually done, which is to make the government more expensive and our deficit twice as big. Conservatives believe in truly slashing the bureaucracy, the consultants, the foreign aid, the handouts to big corporations and phony refugees. Let's bring down the cost of government so we can bring down taxes and increase take-home pay for our people.
Okay, as a follow-up, if you were Prime Minister, how would you approach this spending review? Would you approach including job cuts and not just attrition?
We have too many, after a decade of lavish liberal spending, we have too big a bureaucracy. We need fewer bureaucrats. That means reversing these massive spending increases that Mr. Carney has brought in. Then we need to bring in a hard cap on spending where we find $1 of savings for every new $1 of spending. So the government can't just pass the cost on in higher taxes, inflation, and debt. So the answer to your question is yes, we need less bureaucracy and more results. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be the final question.
Mr. Poilievre, are you concerned about any programs that the government would cut in the future?
You know, the mess we're in today, the reason why we have the worst youth employment numbers in 3 decades, the worst housing and food price inflation, the reason that there are 2 million people lined up at food banks is that the government is too fat. It's very simple. The government is rich and the people are poor. We need to make the people rich by getting the government off their backs. Actually, I'd put it this way. Right now, the government has become a big fat man, and the private sector is a skinny man carrying that fat man up an increasingly steep hill. And that skinnier man is about to collapse under the weight of the gargantuan, Carney Liberal government. It's time to put that government on a diet. And it's time to start worrying about the feeding and care of the hardworking people who are carrying the government on their back.
Thank you. That concludes today's press conference.
Thank you very much.